Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, September 23rd, 2024. I am Dave Biddle, very happy joined by Dan Rubin. All right, non-conference slate is behind us, Dan. We head to the Big Ten slate starting this Saturday night at Michigan State. Spartans have not beat the Buckeyes in East Lansing since 1999. Spartans head coach, Nick Saban. So, 25 years ago, Buckeyes have gone up there and they have just dominated, and I look for more of the same. Now, I think Michigan State hired a pretty good coach in Jonathan Smith, but, man, he inherited an absolute mess. They're a little better than what I thought they would be, but I still think Ohio State's going to go up there and handle them. Point spread is 24.5. I think Ohio State's going to cover that spread. We're going to get into the Marshall game, too. I want to get your thoughts on that, but just your early thoughts on this game at Michigan State. Do you expect Ohio State to roll? Do you think this might be a little bit of a hiccup for them? What do you expect?
Oh, I don't see a hiccup.
No.
I think this is a bad setup for Michigan State because let's just into the first real team on the roster, as I air quote that. I was actually kind of impressed with Marshall, but I'm not saying they're going to get the kitchen sink, but I think they're going to get the Buckeyes, at least for the first half, where offense will be at, Chip's full arsenal at his control, and I think we'll just overwhelm them. Boy, like I told you, Dave, before we went on the air, I was at the Marshall game. Mr. Bucknuts took care of me. I got seats, got to bring my son and two of his buddies from Denison, and it was hot, but I'll say this, they are very, very good. I haven't felt like that in the stadium in a while. I'll say that in a while. Like, I don't really trying to think back. In terms of just the feeling of it's hard to explain this when you're not there, and I hadn't felt it since I hadn't been there yet. But they got a really good team, man. Like a really good team. I don't like when I came back and I heard all the there's some negativity about it, and there's certainly a couple things that happened that were goofy. Kickoffs, but they are impressive in person, man. I'm very optimistic. Very optimistic. I would not pick them to lose against anybody.
Yeah, I think I know they started slow against Marshall. I get it. Coming off a bye, and I thought Marshall came out. I thought their quarterback actually played well early. And then Ohio State looked like that dominant force that I expected for the rest of the game. I'm with you, man. I remember talking to you in 2019. We were like, this might be the best Ohio State team we've ever seen. It, and they've been good, obviously, since then. But you're right. This is the first time since 2019 I'm like, bring anybody on. Now, obviously, that year, LSU ended up being the best team in the nation, but Ohio State, I think, was the second best team. They got screwed against Clemson. My point is, I'm with you. And I think this 2024 team is better than the 2019 team. So,
okay, so let's just discuss that part, which is cool.
Yeah.
Even if it's a push, there's no LSU,
right,
with Joe Burrow waiting for us. See what I'm saying? That's where the confidence comes from. Look. We don't want to spend 10 minutes on that Clemson referee thing, but
no,
I didn't feel as confident going into the next game as I would now, just because of who LSU was, and it's proven out. Those weren't flukes. You can speak to this directly. Those were legit players. So that LSU team was legit. I'm just saying now, as I look at the landscape, I mean, when they're going to do this, when we go to play Michigan this year, they're going to match up what this year's matchup looks like versus last year. And it's going to look like 20 years elapsed between the two games if you just do the matchups. And I keep going back to this, Dave. It's like everything last year that made me a little bit uncomfortable, they've taken care of in such grand fashion. Like last year, I really felt like the team was – on offense, Marvin and a pile of dust.
Right.
It was really get Marvin the ball. We're not going to run it. When Trey was in there and was good, he saved the Notre Dame game with that run maybe, but he wasn't consistently an option. To see what they put out there now, one of the things that hasn't been mentioned, maybe it has been, I didn't catch it. Part of the thing that took place is they scored so fast that the defense was just back out on the field immediately. And I'm telling you something, dude. It was extremely, extremely hot, okay? And the refs, and this is what I wanted to get into, did not have control of the game for the first quarter. Right. Every call had a conference. Every timeout felt longer than usual. Mm-hmm. So I'm telling you, and I guarantee there are people who were there at the game. And my son, who was not happy with the Heat, was like, dude, this quarter is good. It went on forever. So when Day got upset, he was completely justified. That I heard you say something about the targeting rule, like spirit versus practice. That's exactly what happened on that play. The spirit of that rule of getting to sub is not to wait till the last second and screw the other team. Right. That's what they did, and he lost it. And then the ref closest to him, dude, they were about 100 feet away from me. That guy was on an ego trip.
Yep.
Okay. I think they put the guy there who's notorious for being able to stand up to other coaches, because you're standing right in the eye of the storm there, and he was just he. I do not approve of that ref or the officiating. It was so bad that was like a crescendo. The idea that Day just lost his stuff over one play, that's not what happened. Those guys did not have control of the game, okay? Why did they review they reviewed that forced fumble on the near the goal line.
Right.
The Ohio State offense came all the way out, defense all the way back, and then all the way back. If you'd have done that in fast motion, it would have looked like a cartoon Keystone Cops episode. And so I totally, even if Day said he didn't swear, I would have sworn. Okay, it was ridiculous. So I wanted to get that out there. I hadn't heard that. Also, the offense for Marshall to get started was impressive. They were playing very vanilla defense, dude. There was they literally were just lined up in your most basic defense, and I give them credit. They hit a couple tight window slants. They hit a couple nice plays. I also think this, and I said this in reference to Dillon Gabriel, if you either run the ball with your quarterback or you drop him back 30 times, he is not going to get through the game. He'll make a few plays. We may give up some points, but you are going to take some hellacious hits, and that was proven out. This is a trend now. The Akron QB is still probably having nightmares, okay? Stone Earl, is that his name? He's not a big fella. He could not have kept that up for the whole game. He went out early in the second half. They said it was cramping. I don't know about that. So that's another thing about it that I definitely jumped out to me. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that jumped out, but I get that the quarterback made some plays and stuff, but he was getting pounded, dude. And I don't think you can have a quarterback. Maybe Carson Beck is big enough to stand in the pocket. But like Dillon Gabriel, if he drops back 40 times, he'll have a few touchdowns. He's going to take 2 or 3 open hits. I just don't think anyone's going to be able to survive that.
Just make sure you don't barely touch his helmet, because they'll kick you out of the game for that. It's ridiculous, man. You think about some of the things in sports. Think about any sport. What it takes to get ejected from a game in sports, right? Even in football, other than targeting, what does it take to get ejected from a football game? You got to throw a punch. You got to do something really, really bad to get thrown out of a game. Or you can have incidental contact where the running back lowers his head at the last minute and you have incidental contact. Nobody's hurt and the guy gets kicked out of the game. But I digress.
Let me throw out some more comments here, just on my. I'm going to do like free stream of consciousness here, and answer Sean Duffy. Where was our rush? That was my concern. In the first half, when they did straight drop back, he just had too much time. I don't know why that was. They didn't blitz. I get that, but I think we all thought this team would be a team that could get to the quarterback without blitzing out of your down 4. They did not do that. That was troubling. I don't know how much of a impact not having Tyleek in there made, but you would think JT and Jack would get him on the edge.
JT's been disappointing though, man.
I've heard that. I've heard Caden Curry. Boy, Caden Curry's not nearly as big as JT though. The idea of starting Caden Curry on 1st and 2nd down and facing the run like that, I kind of like the role that they have Caden Curry in now, kind of like the werewolf rush guy. And also, if you look at his sack, he rushed from the inside. They had a rushman package. I think he and Sawyer were lined up inside, and an obvious passing down. He's lethal like that. So that was impressive. I'm just going to run down my other observations. and a couple. The refs' no control in the heat was big. Here's another one. And Dave, you know that I'm telling you the truth when I say this. Last year at this time, I'm going to mention the team that will not be mentioned again after this. I told you who I wanted for the Cowboys to be their running back, and it was Quinshon Judkins. Hyperbole is going to start to come in here. My son said best back since Zeke. I think that's almost.
So we talked about that yesterday. So it's basically, if you ask that question, like, is he the best since Zeke? It boils down to
him versus Dobbins.
Right. And it's a really
push.
Good debate.
I'll say a push
really
right now.
Good debate. Yeah. Go ahead.
But so we happen to be sitting next to a couple from Norman, Oklahoma, who were Ohio State fans, and they were fans of tailgating. And so the man and the woman next to me, they were getting into it. And I said at one point in time, Judkins runs pissed. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so this woman heard that, and I'm going to do an accent here, so don't get offended from Oklahoma. She was like, he runs pissed. I love that. For the rest of the game, all she stood up and ran. He's running pissed. So that was cool. But he's all like elbows and knees and like whatever they say, SEC, whatever. That's what they meant. He is something else, man.
He really is. And
really
Trey
is.
looks good. Trey looks really, really good.
So
and
let me get to
Quinshon
that.
looks better. It's like Trey looks great.
That run down the sideline, Dave, was right in front of me.
Oh,
Those were fresh legs. The guys that rubbed off of him were guys who have been in the game the whole game, maybe didn't get down and tackle the way, the third quarter. They just bounced right off him. I've never seen him have a stronger run. We always used to say this, great in a straight line. If you hit him, he's going down. He ran through dudes there. And why is that? Because, he started the game and played the first two possessions. The idea that Judkins comes in on the third possession is criminal in some states. But
I love this joke, by the way. Quinshon runs so fast his shadow has to catch up.
He was impressive. But Henderson ran great, ran smooth. As far as the offense, they could have scored on every single play. You line up Jeremiah Smith as the X receiver and you don't have safety help over the top, they can run that play whenever they want. They're saving that. The interception, Jeremiah Smith did not know the ball was coming to him until he was halfway down, and he still almost ripped it out of the guy's hands, by the way. That was just a miscommunication of some sort. Howard was really smooth, I thought. He's not a classic passer. You know what I'm saying? He's got a little shove in it. That's when he missed the Jelani coming over the middle. He shoved it a little bit. The one he missed, the Kazmarek in the left flat, that was just Chip calling plays at that point. I mean, Kazmarek in the flat is not a play they need to call. They were just calling stuff. But I told you this in a text. The offense reminds me of when Tom Herman first got it rolling here, and it was like, we're never getting to third down. And when we do, it's 3rd and 2. There's so much space, dude. It feels like everybody's running free. There was a pitch to Judkins late in the game where remember there used to be a pitch to Zeke. He'd get his speed up the 8 yards downfield before anyone even touched him. And you'd be like, oh, this is glorious. That's what it felt like. I feel like Chip has total control over the thing. Like he was just calling plays, man. Like He was holding back. I can't say this enough. When you were there and you see Jeremiah out as the X receiver in man coverage, you can't do that. No team is going to be able to do that. So that I got to see. Let me see what else I wanted to comment on. Long term, Arvell Reese will be the middle linebacker, and they're going to have to move Sonny to the outside. Sonny isn't a bad player. He's not a middle linebacker, though. He did draw the hold on that one play, which I called out for the fans. He just doesn't look like a natural middle linebacker. Reese does. He's something. Reese also gets blocked. I'll tell you, watch this. He's getting blocked. I mean, when you're the middle linebacker, you oftentimes have a guard or running back assigned to you in blocking. He still makes plays. If you watch, he made 2 or 3 plays with the blocker on him where I'm like, oh, he isn't going to, and he made it. Let's see. It's hard to get across how different the offense feels. Now, I said that before about Marv. The idea of you have a running quarterback changes the math so much. that there were times when Howard could have run and he just didn't. Like he had so much time he could wait to throw it, where he could have escaped and gotten 15 yards easily. That was tremendous. Oh, James Peoples has a lot of Dobbins in him. A lot. James Peoples is going to be, if you have a fantasy keeper league right now for college, I would go try and acquire him because he's going to have a year next year. He's going to have a year next year.
Yep. A couple of Texas boys.
The corners are tremendous. Igbinosun and Burke. I wouldn't be surprised if both are starting in the league next year. They look so comfortable out there. The secondary, if you were to ask me the strength of the defense, when you're there, there's no question it's the secondary. I mean, it is. Lathan Ransom is a grown man. Okay, Lathan Ransom plays like, I wrote this down. He plays like he's the oldest guy on the field in a good way. You know what I mean? Anytime there's a tackle, you're like, oh, who's that? It's Ransom. He's been tremendous. He's always been great coming forward and tackling, but their secondary, man, that's the best I've seen at Ohio State personally, especially in person. They're just tremendous. They really are. I mean, Downs back there is just like he hasn't had to do anything yet, really. He's just been literally the safety blanket. The one time they almost hit a guy in the flat, he came under it and was in like perfect position. He's just tremendous. Punt return, special teams. I'm going to have a tremendous boarding house item for you today about kicking. I can't explain that. So, he messed up the first two, and then we boogied up to the club section to see the people in the foundation. And when I got up there, like, he kicked it out of bounds. I'm like, I know, I saw them. They're like, no, he did it again. I'm like, no, he didn't. And I'm like, I saw it. He kicked out of bounds twice. They're like, no, he did it again. And the reason I say this is after the second one, I watched Day and Lachlan come over and like, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, the wind, the velocity. And Dave's like, go. And then he did it again. And we said, has that ever happened before? Has one player kicked the ball out of bounds 3 times in one half, not on purpose, in football history? Do you know the answer to that?
I can't imagine that I've ever seen that. I know I've never seen that before. I can't imagine it's happened before. 3 straight kicks going out of bounds. I have never seen it. If that's happened in football, maybe it's happened once ever. I don't know.
Okay, I was at a professional baseball game this year where the number 9 hitter walked twice in the same inning. Think about that. It's never happened before. It happened in like 1906, and that was our discussion. Has this ever happened before? We had the same discussion Saturday. Like, literally, you need to call up like whoever that special service is that does all the stats for people and goes like into the annals of baseball. You need them on this because I don't think that's ever happened before. No,
it didn't. And then you have one of my wife's former students from Groveport. She's a teacher at Groveport. So Austin Snyder, the walk-on, transferred from Findlay. He's now might be the kicker. No,
he got a great ovation, by the way.
What's that?
He got a great ovation for kicking it down the middle of the field.
I know. My wife got a kick out of that. No pun intended. But yeah, I think they'll probably go back to fielding. But if he does this again, he's done. And that's
bizarre, dude. It was legitimately bizarre.
Yeah, that's
because they were in the same spot. He was trying to do so. What was he trying to do? You know what I'm saying? I know everyone wants to kick the ball to the right side of the 1 yard line now, which is hard to do. I really don't know what he was doing. Like, I'd like to know. I'd actually like to talk to him. I felt bad for him, though, man. After the second one, you had 106,000 people staring at him, and he walked. I watched him. He walked all the way down and stood in the back, all the way to the left. And I felt bad.
It happens often, once, maybe twice. I've never seen that. And Ohio State loves to kick that, that coffin corner. But like now with them calling the fair catch, you don't even need to do that. If you're going to kick it to that coffin corner, they're just going to call a fair catch and get the ball to 25. Just kick it through the end zone, man. You don't even need to worry about that anymore. You can't force them to return it anymore, which I hate, but it's the way it is. All right, I'm going to let you guys know about our friends at Manscaped. Great deal you guys can get. All right, guys, it's the best time of the year. Football's back. We're talking NFL Sundays, college football Saturdays, and that glorious grind of fantasy football lineups. This is where your inner GM comes alive, setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV, and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone ridicules in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. Let's be honest, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down low with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue nose and ear hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0, this is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the football season throws your way. All right, moving right along. Listen, I like the fiery day. It's just the Chip Kelly. It's a domino effect in a great way. First of all, you have probably the best offensive coordinator in college football. I can't believe he's the offensive coordinator. Would I want him as head coach at Ohio State? No. Do I love that he's offensive coordinator? You better believe it. And now it allows Ryan Day to be the CEO, so he can do things like get 15-yard penalties. No, I'm joking about the 15-yard. I like fiery Ryan Day, and you're right. It wasn't just that
justified.
It was building, because that was even Joel Klatt was just going off on the refs about how everything needed was basically like, the meeting could have been an email type of thing, It's like, dude, like everything was taking 5 minutes. Those guys were completely out of their league. And how he's getting on the kicker, everything about Ryan Day. I love how he's not for show. He is dialed in, even at press conferences. He's a great guy to deal with as a media guy. But there's no, like, a lot of times Tim May will joke around a little bit and Ryan will like kind of smile as Tim's doing it. There's none of that during press conferences.
I did hear him say,
it's serious as, go
ahead. That's like 3 questions there. I'll answer one at a time there. He was a little still, you could see the adrenaline was still pumping after the game.
Yeah. But like tomorrow's press conference, watch it.
Cool.
He will not smile once during, and I like that. I'm not saying he's not tight. He's just locked in. He's still being very courteous. I love Ryan Day's mindset. And you can just tell that he's taken on that Nick Saban role, where he's still going to be heavily involved in the offense, just like Saban was heavily involved in the defense. Saban was also heavily involved in special teams. Day's doing that. He's probably not real happy with how that's going right now, but he'll get that shored up. But I like fiery Ryan Day. I like CEO Ryan Day.
I do too, but I'll come back to what I told you before the season. When it's all said and done, Chip is going to get a ton of credit, because whether he deserves it or not, just because it hasn't been there in the past, just the kind of the newness of it and the fact that they're so much better, he's going to get a ton of credit. But I agree with you. Day, you can't put into words the Chip Kelly thing just because, and I've said this many times, if Chip was an assistant at any other team, I don't care if it's the Patriots, Bowling Green, or Modern Day High School, if he's the assistant coach and you struggle, he's going to be mentioned as the head coach. This is the one place that won't be mentioned because it's his guy. And he made a special. I mean, who else would he gone and been the offensive coordinator for? I don't think anybody in college.
No.
I could have seen him going back to the pros.
He interviewed with the Seahawks.
Sure. But I'm saying, so that's like a unique aspect to the season. Another thing, like when I start to think about it, I'm like, oh, well, we have that going for us. Oh, yeah, we have 2 running backs. Oh, yeah, we have maybe the best receiver there is out there. And it just starts to build and build. And I think Chip, even when he's interviewed, you can tell he's lighter, if that makes any sense. Like, if he didn't like the stuff that a CEO coach has to do, he doesn't have to do any of it.
Right.
He's a jovial guy in press conferences. He's just calling plays. And by the way, he's just calling plays on this team. I can make an argument relative to the competition. It's the best offense he's ever had. Okay. It's very possible. So imagine that. If you just had a job where, by the way, Chip, already financially independent. Let's bring that up.
Yes.
He doesn't need another paycheck. Okay. He could have a house in every continent right now if he wanted. So those guys get to do what they want. And he's doing what he wants. And it shows, man. The offense is just something else. They look overwhelming. Like it was just a matter of what plays were called. They scored 49 points. If before the game they said, all right, you need to score X, they could have just put a number on it. They could have scored anytime they had the ball in any way they wanted.
Robert on Facebook, Dave and Dan, is there anything different you would like to see from the offense and defense going into game 4? Now, they didn't have Tyleek Williams this past game. I thought the defensive line, I think that they need to be more disruptive. That's one thing I would like to see. Overall, as Dan said, the secondary, this might be the best secondary we've ever seen at Ohio. At Ohio State. And that includes 1996, where Antoine Winfield came off the bench as a sophomore because they were so loaded. Sean Springs, National Defensive Player of the Year, number 3 pick of the draft. All those guys were early draft picks in 1996. This one might be better, and I don't say that lightly.
Let's talk about that for a sec, Dave.
Yeah.
Where do you think, if you were going to project right now for the secondary, the starters, where do you think they'll get drafted?
See, I sometimes I think I might be on an island with Burke. I think Burke's going to be a first-round pick.
Who? You glitched for me there.
I think Burke will be a first-round pick. I think Igbinosun might be. He'll probably be a second-rounder, although I don't know. If I'm an NFL team and I need a corner, and let's say Igbinosun's, I don't know, wherever you have him, if it's Will Johnson, somebody else, Denzel, those guys are off the board. I'm picking late in the first round. I'm taking Davison Igbinosun. So I think you look at that 96 team. So Springs was the number 3 overall pick of the draft, National Defensive Player of the Year. Ty Howard was a second-round pick. Antoine Winfield was a future first-round pick. He was just a sophomore that year. Maybe my favorite Buckeye. No, not my favorite Buckeye. Orlando Pace is my favorite Buckeye, but he's up there. Then the safeties. You had Rob Kelly was a second-round pick. Damon Moore was a third-round pick. So they were loaded. Dude, but like Caleb Downs will be a first-round pick. I think this is and they're deeper. Even though Antoine Winfield came off the bench, he was still the number 3 corner. This team has Jordan Hancock, Jermaine Matthews. Great. He is. Jermaine Matthews is the number 4 corner. Okay. So, what
do you think Ransom will get picked?
Lathan Ransom is better. As much as I love Damon Moore and Rob Kelly, I think Lathan Ransom's a better player. Yeah.
Where do you think he gets picked?
Lathan? It's going to be interesting because of his injury history. They're going to tear that apart. If he runs well, that goes out the window. If he doesn't run well, now you and I are going to be pissed because we're going to be like, come on, this guy, he's going to be one of those guys, if he falls to the 3rd day of the draft, he's going to steal.
He ain't getting out of the 3rd round.
I agree. I think he will, the way he's playing. But just playing devil's advocate, if he doesn't run well, teams are going to pick him apart because of that injury. He's had 2 major injuries.
I'll tell you what. The way defense has gone in the NFL, I think works to his advantage because he can play like that walk-up safety linebacker spot that's been created. Most teams don't really even start. Most teams are in nickel half the time now. So that really fits him. He's a really good tackler, man. Yeah, he might be the best tackler on the team right now. I'm comfortable saying that right now, that I haven't seen Downs in enough open field situations. I'm in no way taking anything away from him, but from what I've seen so far, coming up, Ransom has always been a beast. I've always been a little bit concerned about the ball going over his head. But man, I'm telling you, he makes 2 or 3 hits a game where other guys are coming in to make the hit, and all of a sudden someone flies in and takes the guy's legs out, and everyone's like, damn. And he's just like fixing his face mask and going back to he's a stud. They're really impressive. And they really haven't been challenged yet, by the way. No, has anyone sat in the pocket and tried to throw the ball down the field on them yet in any way? Really? Really? I don't see it. And then and James brings this up. We don't even talk about Hancock. Hancock's going to be drafted for sure. For sure. He may be drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round. It's impressive, man. It really is. It's fun. I'm not going to lie. It was really a fun experience. Great parking. They've closed down Cannon Drive, but you can still get in there if you have Mr. Bucknuts parking. So you get you kick your hazards and get a mile of the back cave right into your parking.
It's good parking if you have that. If you don't have that, it's an absolute disaster down there. Not having Cannon. If you told me a few years ago there'd be no access from Cannon Drive, I'd be like, how can you even have an Ohio State football game without access to Cannon Drive. It's like, well, this is what happens. If you don't have those stadium pass lots, you are screwed this year.
People were going around and not even asking the cop because it looked so closed off. I stopped him like, I don't know how to go around. He's like, well, let me see your parking. Oh, can you put your hazards on and go right through here? Mm-hmm. I drove. It looked like, I literally was the only car for a mile. And I'm passing people and they're like, where are you going? By myself. And then a couple security things, look under the thing for the bomb, and I was in. It was tremendous.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. That right there on Woody Hayes. Yeah, oh, yeah. You go around that little bomb squad. It's like a little, almost like a little maze you have to drive through. Oh yeah. If you got those passes, you're golden.
Well, this is on Cannon, dude. I know what you're talking. I didn't have to cross the bridge.
I know what you mean.
I went back in by the towers.
Cannon Drive, like right next to the stadium is like the one that connects it all the way down to like King. It's like, I can't believe people used to park there. There used to be like huge parking lots there and tailgates. But hey,
there's been a ton of construction.
Figure it out, man.
There's been a ton of construction there where they wiped out all these trees and stuff. Like when I was crossing over to the St. John's to see Mr. Bucknuts, like they fenced it off and they made it much more like regimented. It used to be just like Woodstock, man, free for all. And Porta-Johns you had to fight your way into and stuff, and people would be like, these are our Porta-Johns. Now they got it all set up. But, it's a great – there's nothing like going to a good Ohio State game in the sun with your family and watching them kick someone's butt. It's just really an enjoyable way to spend an afternoon.
I do wish it would have been a little cooler for everybody.
It was really hot.
My God. Can we be done with – now we finally have had a cold front come through Ohio. Cold front meaning it's only going to be upper 70s. But seriously, it's been like 90 – like the entire, now we're in fall. It's been 90 for like the last 2 months. My daughters play high school tennis. So every match is like 90 degrees. And if you're in a hard court, I'm just sitting there, in my old man chair watching the tennis match. And I'm sitting there like, this is miserable. My daughter's out there trying to play. And if it's 90 degrees and you're playing on a hard court, dude, it feels like 120 degrees on a tennis court. It's been brutal. So hopefully we're done with that nonsense till 2025.
My youngest son plays soccer. And these new fields they have, like turf fields, are out in the back, there's like a sundial. And down on the turf, it's like 110 degrees. But it's soccer, so how hard could it be?
I might actually have to cut my grass for the first time in 6 weeks.
Oh, we actually
got some rain last night, a little bit this morning too. It's crazy.
I'm looking right now. We had to bust the sprinkler out, and we usually don't even have to do that because we get enough rain. Although I'm told the sun's not going to shine here in Ohio. We're going to get back to our gray. So there we go.
That's the thing. I did mention that. Like soon we're going to be bitching that it's like we have no sun and it's gray, and we're going to be like, maybe those 90-degree days weren't so bad. No, they can be miserable. You know what's funny about this? And we're going to have a note on this from our expert that does the stream of consciousness. We'll have a note in the boarding house. This offense is explosive, and at times they're not even trying to be explosive. I mean, you're always hoping you can break one, but it's not like they're trying to draw up plays like 40 yards down the field. It's like a little hitch, touchdown, a little run over here, a little misdirection, 80-yard touchdown. It's unbelievable how explosive they are without even really trying to be explosive.
It's that, but it's also the plays. There's so much space. You know what I'm saying? There's like, it feels like guys are getting 2 and 3 steps before they're even touched. Wow, that's true. That's incredible. But that also lets you understand why Day got so upset. Everyone was burning up, man, and doing nothing and standing around. Also, Ohio State has these like lean-tos they let their team sit under and get some shade. I looked across the field. Guess who didn't have lean-tos? Marshall. So, I mean, that's an advantage. I'm not sure that's accurate. I don't want to say that out of turn, but I couldn't see him. But, yeah, man, it was unbearably hot. So, for Day to lose his cool, I'm not even sure I want to say that because I would have done the same thing, and I think it was cool. It's like in Rocky 3 when they say, keep your cool. Rocky 4, and he's like, that was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, and we've had people ask about Tyleik Williams. I don't know. I'm guessing it was – he did say after the game it was day-to-day. So that tells me it's one of those things where Tyleik probably could have played. It was a big game. I think he'll play against Michigan State. We'll see what Coach Day says tomorrow. We'll have the Ryan Day press conference tomorrow. We're also going to talk with Jim Knowles and Will Howard tomorrow. High noon, Ryan Day, then Knowles, then Howard. So now Ryan, he's pretty, tight-lipped when it comes to injuries, but stuff like that, he'll typically give us a good idea.
Tyleik was up, towel around the neck, coaching the team up, moving around, showing some lateral quicks. That felt to me like Tyreek rests some boo-boos and come back, some bumps and bruises, come back ready to go. And he makes a tremendous impact. I thought you did a good job of talking about this yesterday, or at least on the postgame show. You're talking about a 335-pound three-tech. He gets push.
Yes.
Which is another reason he's going to be not going to get to the third day of the draft. Because defensive tackles
day of the draft.
Defensive tackles who can get a good push are good. Ty Hamilton flashed a little bit too. That's another guy that's going to be in the NFL that no one's going to know. The Hamiltons are going to end up having like $50 million in the bank and be able to walk around unnoticed, and more power to him. His brother got paid big time and was almost the same kind of anchor. No one talked about him. He just made plays. And you're like probably the least heralded starter, just a stud.
Yep. For people that don't know, yes, the game is only on Peacock. The Michigan State game, it's on Peacock. But, hey, we knew that was going to happen. They had one game last year on Peacock. There's Big Ten basketball game, Ohio State basketball games some are just on Peacock. So, hey, if you're a fan of Friends, I know my family loves watching my daughters like watching the old Friends and The Office episodes.
Oh, yeah. I've done that.
There you go. So,
I just did The Office again. I was late to The Office, Dave. Late.
Oh, you're
like late. When I watched it the first time, I'm like, that's the guy from the Chris Paul commercials. Seriously, I didn't know who it was.
That's funny. Yeah, that's a good
stuff. Here's another thing. In the episode where Michael Scott leaves, it's like in episode 7, I watched the next 2 episodes. I'm like, is he not coming back? What's going on? I lost interest. But I was so late to that one.
I didn't even watch the final season was it final 2 seasons? When
When
Michael Scott left the show, I'm like, show's over.
I can't get through it when Hangover guy becomes the one.
Yeah, and I like him as on the show. But, yeah, once Michael Scott left, once Steve Carell left, I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm done.
I literally watched 2 episodes more and called my daughter. I was like, hey, is he not coming back? And she's like, no, he left the show. I'm like, what? This show's not any good.
Right.
Steve Carell, by the way, he will be at Parents Weekend at Denison, proud grad. You know that?
I did not know that. No. That's cool.
Steve Carell, and there's another guy, another comedian. He's the guy that does Guy Who Bought a Boat on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I love that. Oh, yes.
He's on Bad Monkey now.
Alex Moffat?
Yeah.
Guy Who Bought a Boat is one of the most underrated sketches in SNL history. So good. Guy that just bought a boat. Oh, my God.
And I can't believe I'm spacing on her name. She was married to Ben Affleck, and she does all the commercials. Jen Garner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Another fine Denison grad. So,
wow. Look at you. Look at all this.
Well, consider that every disposable dollar I have goes towards the university, I might as well amp it up.
Yeah. Your whole family goes there. All right. Great stuff from Dan Rubin. Appreciate it, Dan. Thanks to all of you. Live audience, very large. Appreciate that. Appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to all of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.